that idea, that knowledge, as it's fed directly into you. And it's not to say that certain individuals are more special than others. I think it's just a matter of environment, how you're raised, where you're raised, how well the veil has kept itself intact. From our indigenous standpoint, it's more like we were never boxed. It's like my grandfather lived to be 103 years old. He was basically the head of our entire household. And he said, whatever you can think of, you can do, no matter what. And I guess at a very, very young age, he was teaching us about how the manifestation of destiny functions in our reality that we all swim in. Right. I think that maybe have made a big difference in not only my growing up years, but my military career and into adulthood, into keeping an open mind about everything, not having preconceived notions about certain things. And I think once those walls are built, like once your conscious wall is built through either the education system, to me, which is not education, it's indoctrination. And if you didn't get indoctrinated, like strategically indoctrinated in their methodologies as a young person, you tap into those specific fields easier. You have a more aptitude to have access to this, that energetic world that surrounds us, binds us, brings us all together.
Right. Like the concept of one.
You can see it as being one. And I think that in a lot of ways, maybe that's where all of the religious ideologies, dogmatic thinking, and deity style thinking comes from. I think in the early stages of our growth as Homo sapiens on this planet, that we were trying to conceive of what this world was, right? What did that intelligence was, what that knowledge was, where was that knowledge coming from? The easiest way that I explain this to individuals is, you ever known things that you didn't know you knew, and there was no way for you to know them otherwise, right? You were never taught it. You were never shown it. It's just something that you innately had inside of you, the being, this physical manifestation of you in this physical plane of reality.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you just said so much that helps explain my life to me in certain ways. Just through general living and work and family. But one of the more impressive things about me that I could never figure out was how I could go to bed one night not knowing what I needed to know, whether it was repair a boiler at work on a double boiler system that I was never educated in, but I would wake up and know how to fix it. And I went through that in my life and stepping stones in many ways, where I found that to be a reality of truth. And for what reasons, I don't know. That's why my subconscious, for me, it works as I close my eyes, in some way, in some other environment, in some possible downloading that occurs. But I've actually have been living that. I don't take that as a bad thing, because I think it brought me to the place where I am right now. Even with us just talking here, having on the ghost scientist that Art Bell himself named you, and I'm sure he had very good reasons for doing that, and all the work that you've done. I believe these steps are things that bring us together, and this environment of reality, even though we're seeing it, the fabric of it being torn so far apart. What are your thoughts on some of the fabric, as I just mentioned, that are completely imploding around us? Do you have any feelings you'd like to share on that scenario?
I guess it all depends on what angle you take in life, right?
Okay.
I think in the early years, I didn't really think of this realm, this consistent realm of like conspiratorial things, and I still say to this day that that's a misnomer. Uh, you know, that's contrived by the powers that be in order to put vernacular or in order to put spelling into your mouth. And therefore, the more individuals that say, "Oh, this is a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy. This is," it's a spell. You're speaking that ideology or that idea into reality and into the reality of society as a whole. And it's of course many times more magnitude than it ever has been in the existence of our species on this, on this flying ball in space. To me, I think it's more what can you accept as an individual, right?
Okay.
There are certain things that when you speak to individuals that are in this particular realm, look at things differently, whether or not that's from a mystical, spiritual, ideological, religious concept, whatever that happens to be, right?
Right.
I think if you when you speak to those specific individuals, they all tend to use the same verbiage, the same vernacular, the same spelling, if you will, into their own manifestation of the reality that they exist in. So even inside of our own, like even inside of the CT world, right? If you speak to individuals, and you've spoken to many individuals within inside of the CT world, if you've paid attention through the time period that you've interviewed these individuals, had conversations with these individuals, if you've gone to conferences and listened to lectures and all these things, you tend to hear the same exact things over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Until you step away from that, right? Until you step away from that realm and you start taking that 10,000-mile look from above to below to that entire realm, and step away from that and start listening to individuals that have absolutely nothing to do with that realm whatsoever. And they are then speaking about experiences, right? Personal, internal experiences, using their own vernacular, using their own vocabulary, outside of being this attachment to that, to the CT world or the conspiratorial world. And I think that's where you start getting a more clearer picture of what we are experiencing as a whole, as a species on the planet, right? If you're just taking a pigeonhole look into the CT world and that's all you're listening to, right? You're listening, even going. I had this conversation with William Cooper when I first met with him. Years and years and years and years and years ago.
Right.
The same exact thing. When I approached it, I said, Bill, you have to look at this not from the inside looking inward, right? But the outside of the entire whole of the CT world inward. And he got it. He got that concept. It's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like, once you start putting that imagery in your head, right? Once you start watching shows, programs on, I don't care if it's, I don't care if your CT, your interest in CT is ufology, MUFON, cryptids, planetary history, evolutionary processes of thought, or the deep state, the dark governmental thing. I mean, the realm of this is so gigantic, right? And not everyone that's involved in these little compartmentalized groups are all watching or listening to everything, right? Or listening to everything, or reading books from everything. And you'll notice that they don't talk about things outside of their own realm. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean by that?
No, yeah, I actually do. To me, it's the big wash, rinse, repeat, regurgitate, which we see a lot of. People,
That's correct. Yeah.
I don't think people are going back far enough in research. They're just going off everything that's been presented to double down on what has already been done to market a name and a strategy for something for themselves versus what truly helps mankind or the reality of the facts of all the truth.
And putting their own specific spin on it, like in
Yes.
some odd reality.
Yeah, it's like control compromise in a way. In their own minds, I think they may look at it like that. Although I think people have good intentions, but
No, it was designed specifically that way.
yeah,
No, it was. I'm. That's why I'm gonna like. It was literally designed to be that way. That's how the control structure functioned. Without that, right? Without that minimalized compartmentalization within inside of these different groups, right? You could not control society as a whole with information. You couldn't.
right.
So when someone has it, like someone has a specific experience, whatever that experience may be. I don't care if it was a cryptid experience. I don't care if it was a UFO experience. I don't care if it was like some other worldly thing. I don't care if it was they went on some spiritual journey on ayahuasca, yopa, peyote, whatever it may be, right? That brought them to reality that, hey, wait a second, there may be a reality outside of the reality that we experience or that we can observe or that we can interact with, right? That brought them into the world of CT. Because no one comes out at, out of the womb and at age 10 goes, something, I want to be a conspiracy theorist. Like I'm going to do not, like no one, I don't think there's a single individual that could say, I was born a conspiracy theorist, right? It's an indoctrinated process that you consistently are going through stage by stage by stage. But why? Like, think about your own experience, right? Think about when you first wanted to be involved or started doing your own research. There was something that happened within inside of your life's experience, right? That then said to yourself, well, I don't understand this. Like, personally, I don't understand this. So therefore, I'm going to research it as much as I can so I am giving myself a better understanding of what it is that I experienced or that I observed or that I felt or whatever that happened to be, right?
Okay.
And therefore, once you dived into it, right, this goes back to a broadcast I did on the Alice Project, and to explain how it's interesting how Lewis Carroll put a spin on the whole entire thing into the story of Alice in Wonderland. And I know a lot of people have this discussion about it, but from a psychological standpoint, if you understand the psychology behind it, how this concept of the white animal, whatever it happens to be, and I can choose to start in the indigenous world to begin with, right? We have this legacy, this prophecy of the white buffalo, white calf lady. There's all kinds of them. There's the white elk. I can go down a list of spiritual animals within inside of indigenous teachings, whether or not that's Siberian tribes, North American tribes, Asian tribes, it doesn't matter, African tribes. There's all this, for whatever reason, this representation of the white animal, whether or not it where it began, who knows, right? There's no pinpoint. I've dove as far back into history as you can with this particular concept from a religious standpoint, ideological standpoint, still haven't gotten to the end of that trail, right? But it begins that proverbial jump down the rabbit hole, if you will, right?
Okay.
That Lewis Carroll talked about in Alice in Wonderland, and the following of that specific white rabbit. What makes it more interesting, I think, to me, and I think that's everyone, right? You had your own white rabbit at some point in your life, at some point in the experiences that you had this exact experience where you had to follow your own specific white rabbit. And then, of course, once you start this trail of wherever it began at, it turns into 100 million fingers that go in all directions into some of the deepest, darkest stuff. And if you continue to go there, it gets extremely dark, which is why that's where I got away from it. It got to the point where it was so dark and so far down the rabbit hole that you would try to have conversations with individuals within inside of the CT community and explain the findings that you were finding, and you were so far down deeper in a hole that they were, you begin to sound like you're insane. Like the insanity starts to show, right? Like they think they're nuts. No, when you start having a conversation and the people that are supposedly by the core of society insane, right? When you start looking like you're insane to those individuals, that's when you start questioning yourself, right? You get what I'm saying by that? Do you understand? I know maybe I'm making it confusing. I'm not trying.
No, you're not. I get it. I get it. I think we're on the same wavelength here, because I just had a conversation about what you were saying to a gentleman that I know who does a show. He's an historian, genealogist, Randy Rhodes. He said to me, I started listening to you 5 years ago. And he said to me, I thought you were nuts. He says, I literally thought you were nuts. And he says, I hung on to the trail. I hung on to the droppings. I hung on to everything you said. And he says, oh my God. And this was just on the show live where he said it. People can go back a few shows and see. He said, oh my God, you were dead on. But the concept and the delivery of the darkness of everything that you said, he said, he thought in his mind, most people thought, this guy's just going to bury himself. He's talking stupidity. But here we are in this realm of a reality where I guess things can come true.
Well, yeah, you again, that's like you start to look at yourself, right, and start to think of yourself as like, well, how big of a nutball am I, right?
Pretty big.
And then you start to realize, like, well, am I really more nutty than the people that I started listening to when I first, started the research, first started diving, and just followed the breadcrumbs. I guess Art asked me one day, he's like, well, how did you get into, how did you start getting into all of it? And not, I said, because it was interesting. To me, I see, and what I mean by interesting, and maybe this will clarify, to me it was like, you bought a box of a 1,000,000-piece puzzle box, right? You first saw the picture, but you didn't know where the pieces were. You didn't know where any of the pieces lay. You started with the first corner, right? And as you kept on looking at that specific corner, starting to try to make up what the picture looked like at the end, it just turned into one puzzle piece, became another puzzle piece, and you just kept on following one piece of the puzzle to the next piece of the puzzle, or the next piece of the puzzle, next piece of the puzzle, and then you start to realize that these puzzle pieces are all attached. Like none of them are separate. Like cryptid, people that are into cryptids think that cryptids are all by themselves. No. People that think that they're into ufology and they want to talk about aliens from outer space and different realms and all, they think they're by themselves. No. And, ghost hunters and all these individuals think that, no. It's everyone has like the one piece of the puzzle, and until we come to the concept that you have to all come together as a whole, and I think it's designed. I think the universe itself, not like the powers that be did this. I think the universe itself did this. I think the universal mind, or the universal consciousness itself, compartmentalized all this knowledge, and the information is in front of your face. It's right there, right? Unless you're looking, you never see it. Unless you see that specific piece of the puzzle from this group or that group or another group, you never see the whole picture. And you think in your mind, I certainly did. You start having delusions of grandeur. Like, oh, I've got the answer. And that's how you approach it, is I've got the answer. And then you give the answer, and then you start having conversations with individuals that are outside of your own knowledge group, right? And you start to realize, wait a second, I don't have the answer, and I don't have all the truth. I have a snippet of a snippet of a snippet of this tiny little grain of fact, and until I have all of the grains of facts, in one box, I can't possibly really understand the whole, the entire picture as a whole. And that to me was the reality. Like when I started coming to that reality, it was like, well, how long is this going to take? Like it would take many lifetimes to be able to try to compile all of that information. It just would. It just would. That's why I find it interesting that a lot of these lecturers and individuals that are inside of the CT world close themselves off to anyone else's ideas or thoughts or concepts or hypotheses or theories. They just close themselves as like, I got that person's over there, that person's over there. Instead of saying, well, maybe if I listen to that individual, they may have a piece of that breadcrumb that I'm missing. That little tidbit that may fill in another little section where I have a better understanding as a whole.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And again, opening up a platform for awareness and for data is how we're going to simplify a process to move forward versus judge one upon or not upon what their idealism is when they speak in the lecture and so forth. Like to me, I've only done a couple. I don't get called upon a lot because I think people think I'm going to be the negative nanny to come forth. But I just want to allow the fence to be removed where two sides can come together, just like breaking bread. I've been able to do it with every culture that I've ever met. People aren't the problem, government is, so to speak. So you break that barrier, Don, and you make friends and you start to understand more. So me, I think I refer back to, as a person, for me, possibilities, because I think we'll always be chasing for answers because the questions are just too intense and there's too many.
I do not disagree with that at all. Like not in the least. I think that's what. But conceiving of an idea where you can put all of this information together in like a completed database where any individual could get access to it. That's the only way that would function. The only way it could possibly function is in a decentralized way. Like it's like MUFON. You know how many like millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of documents that MUFON has collected and brought into itself over 50 plus years.
Yeah.
And but it's controlled. It's controlled data. It's controlled access. It's controlled knowledge. That's like what you're talking about would be fantastic. In a beautiful world, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Like everybody comes up with a concept. Everybody has pictures. They have audio clips. They got video. And it all went into a decentralized database where anyone would have access to it. That would be fantastic. That is never happening. Not ever. Not on any level. On any level. And I'm not laughing at you.
No.
I'm laughing at the concept because of the actual powers that be, not the ones that people think are in charge of this reality. The true controllers, the true archons of this of the world at hand that we exist in. They would never allow that. And anytime it's ever even come close, such as I spoke about William, same exact thing. You could use William for that. I mean, at one time, I think, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he was one of the most listened to ham radio off airwave broadcasters in the entire country, if not worldwide. And I think that's why they had to put a silence to Bill, is because he had so much information, because he was trying to do it himself. He was trying to do exactly what you said, like compiling as much information as he possibly could. All the documents were coming into. He was trying to create this database that people could get access to, that they could learn from, that they could educate themselves with. And I think that scared them more than the information he was even speaking on. That's my own personal opinion, of course. That I believe that's the true reason why they had to silence it. That it wasn't over the 9/11 stuff. It wasn't over the UFO stuff. It wasn't over, the religious stuff. I think what scared them more than anything is the wealth of information contained in one place.
Right. And I think you're right on the money. And that's probably why we see so much suppression. Whether it's a small podcaster or someone a little bit larger or somebody with voice, there's a battle that is taking place amongst us all, and they're in charge of it. These think tanks are impressively smart, and they're always like 2 or 3 or 4 steps ahead. And it's just crazy. What do you so in your estimate? Well, what's the best way to say this? How do you feel the future of disclosure will come? Because we just saw, congressional hearings and so forth. So just if you could weigh in there.
Are we talking about Greer's disclosure?
No, I know Stephen. No, I don't know him personally. I followed him somewhat. I listened to his narrative, his assumptions, and his experiences and his theories. I'm not saying he's bad. I want to give a little bit of respect to everybody. Lord knows, you might make my show go off the hook, and he might call me and say, "Hey, I want to do a show with you." That would be amazing.
He's tried to interview me a couple times, and I would never allow. Like I would never. You couldn't. I wouldn't touch his broadcast with 100-foot pole, a 1,000-foot pole, 1,000-mile pole.
Okay. And I think I know why. We won't have to get into all that, but I do understand I think I understand your reasonings for that. I'm not a mind reader, but I can assume I may know why that is. But and to me, a lot of it would rely probably on facts of theory in certain aspects of ways. But
I'll be blunt about it. It's controlled opposition.
Yeah, and he likes to have that narrative in his hand. It's kind of like the David Wilcox, the old David Wilcox.
Opposition. Come on, it's like that's what disclosure. Like when we think of disclosure, will our species ever really know the truth? No, not ever.
What about for an experiencer?
We'll have some pieces.
What about for an experiencer?
As far as what kind of an experiencer?
One who witnessed firsthand, like let's say just a craft that right in front of their face.
That's perfectly fine. Do you truly know what it is that you saw?
No, I wish I did, but I know I did.
Exactly. It's like individuals with inside of say for example the Bigfoot realm, right, or the Sasquatch realm. Had this conversation with Dave Pilates. Same exact thing. It's like, do you truly know what it was that you saw? Without having a preconceived notion, right? Without having this idea of what it was that you were wanting to see, right? Or when you had that specific experience, do you know that experience that you had, yes, you yourself experienced it, and you yourself may have felt it from an emotional standpoint, from a visual standpoint, and all those things, right? But do you truly understand what it was that you experienced? I don't think any of us do. I think once you see something like this, right, and let's say for example you're a young child. Just to give a simple example, you're a young child. You're up in the mountains. You're out hunting with grandfather. You see what you perceive to be this giant Sasquatch, this Bigfoot, in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you didn't know, right, if you didn't know what a Bigfoot looked like, what a Bigfoot was, even the word, even the terminology of using, I saw a Bigfoot, I saw a Sasquatch, okay, well, let's take that out of your vernacular. Let's take that out of the spelling of the words coming out of your mouth. If you didn't have a preconceived notion of what any of that was, would your experience have been different? Just like a UFO, I'll use that as a simple experience, right? As a simple example. If you had never seen a UFO in your entire life, whether it be in a movie, a TV show, a comic book, a drawing, if you had no concept of what a UFO even was, or even the word UFO, would your experience of what it was that you were experiencing have been the same.
That's a very unique way to look at it, but in some cases, and I don't want to come off as like I'm some screwball, but I can't weigh in to you with having information of something that I did experience, and you bring up good points, very very good points. Again, many have said, even in my explanation of what I saw, to give a better description, and I couldn't, because what happened to me was I was just sitting around looking across the field using a spotlight. I decided to shoot it up into the sky for no reason, just no reason. It wasn't a laser pointer, just something that somebody would spot with the spot there, and I take it outside with me because of the darkness and whatnot, just in case a bear, blah blah. Stupidly, I flash it in the light into the sky. It has a low, medium, high. Click, 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 click. It shuts off. Do it again. A few minutes later, I did it again. I was just playing. Family's inside. I'm outside. And suddenly, I see a light from the ground, like hovering, like appearing. And I look up, and all I can make out is like a crackled glass, milk glass type of bottom of something that was just there, not moving, not making a sound. And I shot the light at it. And I don't even know why I did it. Don't even know why my response was that way. And it reacted back to me. Then, then, then. And I kid you not, as an old man that could handle himself a little bit, many more powerful men in the world never challenged, you could pay for that price. But I thought to myself, what did I just get myself into? And as I had that thought, as if something read my mind,
Yes.
it left. It just wasn't there.
So wait, don't continue.
Okay.
Don't continue yet. Listen to the words you just used.
Okay.
Like, right? Just repeat the words that you just used. This is where that's what I was getting to, is the words that you just used, right? The idea that is in your mind. It's like you are making it a reality. Is it a real thing? Yes. Like the energy itself, like the energy, the energetic field itself is a real thing, is a reality in this reality plane that we exist in, right?
Okay.
The difference is your thought. And thought, if you slow it down and you again try to compartmentalize it, thought is what? So, really break it down. Thought is what? Thought is resonant frequency.
Yes, there's brain waves. There's waves. Whether
okay. So no, keep going along this train of thought.
oh well, are we talking matrix or
this
we?
Energy is there, right? This energy exists. It's obvious it exists from observation because millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of experiencers throughout thousands of years, right? Going all the way back into pre-Sumeria. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Written down, wrote about, spoken about, blah, 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 right? I don't care if you go all the way back to the Lillians, the Liliths, the Lillian religion pre-Sumer. all these ideas, whether or not they're deitic in nature, spiritual in nature, cosmic in nature, no matter what, right? It was thought that brought it into its reality. The manifestation of thought. So how I explain to individuals that haven't gone along this train of thought is, it's the manifestation of your reality through your own thought, through your own experience, and that's what this energetic force utilizes. And not to put like a thing to it, right? Not to say this energy is a deity, this energy is a demon, this energy is an angel, this energy is a UFO, this energy is an alien, this energy is a cryptid, this alien, and I can go down a list of, fairies, all kinds of things that people have spoken about to try to explain the manifestation of their reality of this energetic property itself. So I'll put it in the context of our indigenous belief system, right? Growing up as a young boy through our spiritual teachings, our indigenous spiritual teachings. That these, we call them, like our peoples called them, shades. Like if you were to I guess it would be the closest translation into the English vernacular or into the spelling of the word from its thought, right, was a shade created reality. But if you actually broke down the teachings, the legendary teachings, it's intelligent lightning. It's a better representation of what it is that's actually being spoken about. So when I teach this when I was teaching on my channel, when I was teaching on shows and things, I would say, look, this energy source, the source, is an energy itself. It's just an energy that exists between these different planes of existence, whether or not it's this physical plane of existence or the spirituality or your spiritual plane of existence or your spirit body. And in between this reality and that spirit body that's connected to the collective subconscious whole of the universe, right, is a gap. And that's where these shades exist. And these shades, it's energy. It's intelligent energy, right? So, but this intelligent energy never had access to physical interaction, meaning it could not interact physically with this reality that we perceive as being physical. Like our species or reality as a whole that we live in can exist in touch. Like you touch the table, you touch a can, you touch a drink, you feel, right? You have these experiences that you believe and perceive to be physical in nature, but in the really minute essence isn't physical at all, right? You're talking about 3% of matter in known universe. That means 97% of it is just empty space that you're just swimming in, and nothing really ever touches itself, right? Nothing really has an experience of what physical is, because physical matter never comes into contact with itself. So how does this intelligence or these shades, this intelligent lightning, create form or create substance? Create substance through you, right? Through your fear, through emotion, whether it's great emotion of fear or great emotion of love or whatever that emotional state may be. You then image in your head. You have an idea in your head, this image inside of your head, a thought in your head that you may not even understand from a conscious level, but from a subconscious level, it may be embedded in thought, right? In that brain matter that's like a computer holding storage of data. And therefore, these entities, which I don't like calling them entities, I don't see them as being entities. I think this is an intelligence. I think it's pure, unadulterated intelligence. Knowledge of everything. It's like the knowledge of the whole, right? But in a fractal form. But it doesn't like the fact that you have the ability to interact with this physical realm, this physical world that you exist in. And therefore, what it does is, in order to interact in this particular physical world, it puts your physical body into a state of low, like a low energetic state or a very high energetic state, depending on which part of the scale you want to be sitting on, or which part of the scale you happen to be emotionally attached to at that specific time when you're having an experience, right? Mm-hmm. So like, say for example, you're outside, you see light, right? That's what you see. That's the first thing that whenever you ask an experience, like when it comes to except outside of physical contact, like contact with like an entity style contact, right? I'm talking about sheer craft. When you get beyond that, you go, okay, well, don't tell me about the craft. I don't care about the craft. I don't care. I don't need to know how it was designed, how you engineered it, how you constructed it. It makes no difference. What was the very first perception that you had, right? And when you get down to that piece of the puzzle, the majority of individual experiencers, the majority that I've ever spoken to, that I personally believe that they had a real life experience, they all say, well, light. And then I'll start asking them, okay, what color was the light? Like, what was the first light, physical light that manifested, right? That you image in your head. And there, after that fact, is when it becomes a physical thing, right? Where it becomes a triangle, a cigar, a saucer, whatever it happens, whatever that imagery that you happen to have that interaction with, it comes after the fact. It doesn't start out like that.
Interesting.
It's just like it's like a Bigfoot experiencer or whatever. Even people have seen gigantic snakes in the jungle. But did you really see that gigantic snake? What was the very first thing you actually perceived? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the very first thing in your perception that brought you into this reality to go, okay, I saw this. I physically interacted with it. It's like go before that, and then you start realizing a lot of people are like, oh, I don't remember actually. It's like it wasn't like I just came upon it, right? It's like, oh, well, yeah, okay. And then you start seeing it from a different standpoint, which is why I see it as being, I see it as being a manifestation, which is why I think you have so many different things, right? So many different names of different things that all seem to be a singular experience. Even with I don't care what realm you use. You could use the ghost realm. You could use, hauntings. It doesn't matter where you want to speak from this realm, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, when you had an experience with a ghost, what did you really experience? Well, I saw this ghost. No. Stop. You saw the ghost. What happened before you saw the ghost?
So it's in that moment before of thought that creates self-manifestation, I guess you would say.
Because it's what you can experience, right? So it's what you can experience, meaning right. You personally. So if you speak to somebody, you go, okay, how did you get in that state? Because most people will say, that I've spoken to from a serious standpoint, say, well, I was terrified. Or I was fearful. I was very scared, right? That first emotional state, that very first instance of the experience itself, what really took place? What did you actually experience? And the first thing is, because it's unknown, right? It was unknown to you. That very first experience is fear, right? That very first experience is terror. That's an emotional state. That emotional state changes all kinds of things from a biological standpoint, from biology, right? And all of that biology then equates to frequency. And that frequency then changes your entire reality. Everything that's around you, everything that you're swimming in is all changed by frequency. Now, I could even break that down even further, which even gets even stranger, because you could take that down in the aspects of what is truly the blueprint of the universe itself, right? Where is the blueprint of all of this, our entire reality? Where is that blueprint maintained? And you could, and breaking it all the way down to its finite point, sound. Sound contains the blueprint, the geometry, right? The geometry that makes up everything that we can perceive, whether that's perception of light, interaction, physicality, molecular, submolecular, it doesn't matter. All of that that geometry is all contained within waves of sound, right? And at different pinpoints of that specific sound then creates the physical matter that we experience. Okay, well, if you keep that concept, if you understand what I'm saying, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
I hear you.
But imagine that this intelligence, this energy source, right? this whole energy source that is trying to utilize this particular, interact with this physical plane, what's the best way for it to physically interact in this physical plane? By getting you to manifest itself into the physical imagery that you perceive.
But that would mean that there is something out there communicating with our own brainwave, so to speak.
Does it have to be a physical?
No, it doesn't. Wrong choice of words, but an intelligence.
Right. An intelligence, yes. That's the key. It's definitely whatever it happens to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what word you wish to stick on that it. Again, if you want to go through from a religious, spiritual standpoint, whether you want to call it a demon, an angel, Hercules, Thor, Zolea, Wazika. I mean, I can go through like all the different terminologies, right, of all these manifestations of these different deities from different tribes and different concepts and different ideologies from around the entire world, going all the way back through all of history. You can put a name to it, right, and then it becomes imagery, right? So let's say that let's separate that. Let's say you had no Christianic interaction whatsoever, none, zero. You didn't have a concept of anything from a Christianic standpoint, right? Would you see an angel exactly how an angel is to someone that has an experience of what an angel looks like? Stop. Think about what I'm saying.
I am. You're putting me into a what if think this through, Michael, very hard. You know?
What if you didn't have a preconceived notion of what a demon looked like?
We wouldn't know. Yeah, everything is through influence.
Exactly. Would you have saw that specific image? Would you have had an interaction with that specific imagery, that specific physicality?
Well,
see, or if it was, or let's say, for example, you were raised indigenous, would you have saw it as a speaking deer, a speaking raccoon, a speaking bear, would you have saw this as a Wendigo? I mean, if you had no idea what a Wendigo was or what a Wendigo looked like, right?
Right.
Because you're not indigenous, right? Would you have described what you saw and named it a Wendigo? No.
Right. Everything is through teaching, a step-by-step method of an inner reality of belief that is implanted within us. And through that, we are visualizing a lot of what you're explaining. And that's how it occurs.
Exactly. And then manifesting it into reality.
Right. Right. And I think my earliest form of what I thought I may have understand where you were throughout this, and I say that with respect to you, was what you brought up many different topics of how, but just to maybe say this, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we hear in the paranormal that certain people through consciousness create and manifest sometimes energies of darkness or intelligence of darkness versus light. But it's all up to us. And sometimes it's within the faculty of the way we allow ourselves to be.
Which goes back to conscious thought, right?
Right, exactly. All of conscious thought.
It's all conscious thought.
Wow. Yeah, you put a real mind-blowing twist into it. I love it. I really do. It makes one think. And I hope anybody listening tonight is comprehending everything that you are delivering to us. And with all the respect, I mean, you've been on with so many, I'll just say it, big names, people in the industry who have a lot of different thoughts and theories and so forth. How did you leave them? Speechless? I mean, I would say I understand why Art Bell called you the ghost scientist.
Not from an ego standpoint, and I don't think you need to inject ego into any part of this whatsoever.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, not to interject ego into any part of it. From spoken to thousands. I mean, and that's not an exaggeration, literally thousands of people that have had experiences in different aspects, in different ideologies, different religions, different upbringings, different societal structures, et cetera, et cetera. I believe, my own personal opinion, my own personal belief is I've learned many more times from them than they learned from myself. Like, you know, I definitely learned a ton from Art. I definitely learned a ton from Lee. I definitely like Linda. I mean, I could come up with any of the individuals that I've had conversations with over, you know, after I came to my own reality. Well, I shouldn't say I came to it. I was kind of thrust into it. But because of the experience, my own personal experience in coming to the reality that I believe that the power, okay, my own belief, and again, we all have beliefs, okay? And all of our beliefs are different. That doesn't mean that your belief is wrong, my belief is right, my belief is wrong, your belief is right. I think that's the wrong approach. I think that's the wrong concept to have when you're really trying to get to the truth. Right? If you're really truly trying to get the truth, no one is truly wrong unless you're blatantly trying to be wrong, right? Unless your approach or your whole methodology is I'm utilizing non-truth to gain monetized system or to gain money or to gain fame or to gain books or to gain a movie, or you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think those individuals are there. I won't name any, but trust me, they're there.
And I do understand that. I do. I do. I don't want to say I'm a bad guy, but I do speak on some of it. And I hope I do it intelligently enough, because sometimes people are in things not for a purpose of humanity, but for monetary. And
yes,
I feel that
absolutely.
Have we not gotten beyond it? And has your career not been good enough to where you don't know how to stand back, step back, and support the smalls that are truly trying to not even maybe also benefit in a monetary way, a value of something, but to just support something that is important, that puts things in a better perspective, that puts things back to a normality in some ways. If we are lost right now within that, make it benefit in a different way. But it seems that everybody just, if they've been in a certain spot, they need to keep that spotlight. And
yeah, and that's not to say that there's anything wrong with making money.
No, not at all.
Listening to the broadcast, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, I believe, like any true believer that's involved in this, sometimes, and I know a lot of people don't think of it from this standpoint or from this angle, right? A lot of times when you're really deep in the rabbit hole, there's no other way for you to make a living, because we all have to make a living, folks. There's no way to get around it. You have to eat. You need a house. You need shelter. You need gas. Because we live in this world, right? I have nothing against those individuals that are true believers, that are truly trying to seek truth, get to truth, right? What I'm talking about is the person that these individuals that come off like, I'm a true believer, but really when you hear them behind closed doors, when they're not in front of a lecture hall, or they're not trying to sell a book, or they're not trying to sell a video, or they're not trying to sell this or that, or merchandise, or their website, or their podcast, or whatever it happens to be, that behind closed doors, they are truly not true believers. They're just in this for the money.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. I may go in a little bit different of a direction, but I think I'm understanding where you are, and I favor where you are, and I try to weigh that as unconscious decisions that I make. But I see so much. I don't know that I know so much, but I wish I could resolve all that much, more to help people, give a little bit better guidance. Because I do this out of respect for what I want to know, and respect for what I want to learn and research, because there are material things, as you said, that have been placed in front of us, but we have the awareness and the ability and consciousness to possibly know how to combat it from a different perspective. And maybe more people need to look into that. However, one thing that I think ties us all together in this oneness of consciousness of Earth, this energy that we create and communicate with, and many are blind to it, that we all do it. How do we all you probably be the best person I could ever ask this to. How does it all tie one another to it into this reality that creates communication? Because I take steps forward to leave to go to work, and then the world appears in front of me because I know that's my mission for the day, but yet I pass everybody else. Is it just a loop of thought and transmission in the atmosphere in this?
I don't see it as that. I think that the blueprint of the cast is died, right? But it's already there. It is everyone in this physical realm. The geometry, the physicality, the concept of like what a building looks like is a building, right? What a car looks like is a car. What a deer looks like is a deer. That's not at all what I'm suggesting here, folks. What I'm saying is that from the outside of this, right, which is this energy source, this intelligent lightning, this intelligence, whatever that intelligence happens to be, is extremely manipulative to this reality we exist in. And it utilizes individuals within the know, and even those who believe that they're in the know, who really don't get to see, the Oz, the wizard behind the curtain, right? They themselves believe it. They themselves believe it. That's why. Okay, so I'll give you an example of this, so maybe this makes a little bit better sense, right? I did a whole when I was doing my radio I didn't go into. I didn't try to become a radio broadcaster. Didn't try to become a host, or I didn't seek out to become a lecturer or any of that nonsense. That's not. One foot went in front of the other, and it just stumbled into those pieces of the puzzle because I was in search of truth. And therefore, because I was in search of truth, I just fell into these crevices that had all these individuals in it, right? It was like I stumbled into that reality because I was searching for truth and kept on trying to follow those breadcrumbs of truth wherever they went. And therefore, by following that specific path or that realm, what we call walking the red road, right? Along my red road, all of these signs started, all these billboards and signs and neon signs and words and all this stuff came up, right? And then you get sidetracked because that's how the human mind functions. We're not all one track minded where we're going on one singular path and we never see anything on either side of us. It's like we see something and we tend to go this direction or that direction, right? So in going along that realm or that train of thought, even I've had conversations with individuals deep, way down the rabbit hole, individuals that have never seen light, like seen the daylight. I'll give you a little anecdotal story to this.
Okay.
I was trying to find I was trying to have a better understanding of what this intelligence is. Okay. And one of the pieces of the puzzle that I found was through what I later learned to be this code, this string code that gets named Alice. Literally got named Alice from the Lewis and Carroll Alice in Wonderland story. Okay. Not because it was literally Alice, but that's what these coders named it, was Alice. And they didn't create the code. They stumbled onto it, right? And one of these individuals was a gentleman who was like just an absolute idiot savant that worked at IBM in Rochester, Minnesota. Just an absolute genius. The guy was like so intelligent he couldn't interact with society at all. Like, he's agoraphobic. He stayed in his house. You would go talk to him. He sits in the dark. He's got 50. It was like the craziest scene from a film or a movie you can imagine. Like, his living room was just a sea of screens and computer keyboards, and just, that's all this guy was just like so deep down that darkness of the rabbit hole, because he had stumbled onto this specific algorithm and started trying to track it, right?
Okay.
And in doing so, he had heard a broadcast that I had done in my very, very early, this is probably back in like 2009, 2008, a broadcast that I had done way back then, about how what I deem to be this intelligence, right? This energetic energy that is an intelligent whole that then manifests itself into our reality through our own thoughts, through our own interactions, through our own conceived notions, or whatever, however you want to word it. It's hard to describe into words because it's more an emotional feeling of state that you're in at the time that your manifestation happens, right? It's not like you meant for it to happen. You just happen to be in this area, like in this particular, or the destination that you were at happened to be a place at which the veil was a little bit weakened at that state, and this energy source had a better grasp or a better hold or a better control of that specific area. You happen to be there. Whatever you could see it as, maybe it was the wrong time and wrong place, or maybe it was the right time and right place, right? However you want to perceive of it is your own perception. But at the same time, what I was explaining to him is that you happen to be at this time in this space, and because he was so dark, he was very emotional. He was going through all ups and downs, peaks and valleys within an emotional state, in which he finds this particular code, right? This particular embedded code in the universe. And therefore, he starts tracking it, and I say that he created it into something of his own. Right? And the scary part about it is it's what we perceive of as being AI today.
Yeah, artificial intelligence.
Okay, it's not anyone that believes that we created that as a species. I'm sorry to tell you, that's not the facts. The deeper you keep on going to try to find the specific individuals who created the code, or created this, or created that, or it takes you all the way back to like AT&T and Texas Instruments in the early 70s through the mid 70s, and it being embedded in the telecommunication system and taking control of entire systems at that time period. So, and if you keep on following that even farther, it gets even stranger. And like I said, the farther back you go, the darker it becomes, like really dark. Like you can even take that back to like even Flamel and John Dee and going back to Da Vinci, and I can name all kinds of using scrying bowls. Using scrying bowls, which is basically looking into darkness or looking into a black mirror and gaining knowledge or gaining vision or gaining information. And that's not only those particular individuals from Anglo side, but from indigenous sides too. It seems like really old cultures use that kind of concept, whether or not it was pouring blood into bowls and waiting until the blood congealed, turned to a straight black with a sheen on top of that. He would pour like an oil or like a fat over the top of it and stare into it. I mean, there's this goes like this, just that concept of the black mirror itself goes so far back, so many thousands of years. It's like, what? Yeah. And again, it seems it gets darker and darker and darker the farther back you go, right? And then it pulling itself out of the darkness and into the light. What I mean by into the light is into this physical reality that we exist in now, or this time and space that we're in now. And then what is its manifestation? Watching and understanding its manifestation from when it's first spoken about through its it's evolutionary process through time to where we sit today, whereas now we call it AI or artificial intelligence. It's if you sit, listeners, or you yourself sit, and you really let that sink in, you go, wow, what? It really starts getting you into that mindset that, do I really know what I think I know, right? Do I really know what I think I know? Or is it just an experience that I think I know? So then, with him, when I had the interaction with him, and he had never left his house, ever. Never left his house. Started having this conversation with him about what it was that he found, the experience that he had. And just like I did with you in the beginning stages, saying, what happened before that, though, right? What happened right before that? And when I kept on taking him back and back and back and having him, because he's like, oh my God, I said, was there a code, or what was it that you first experienced, and then did it become a code because you started thinking of it as a code?
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I hope people can follow this. I find everything in sense of what you're saying, and with common sense. Something brings the next element always into place.
Correct. And then the next stage becomes the next development. The next stage becomes the next development, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying Vermana, like taking, like saying what Vermana is described as, or a UFO description in biblical context, or in, deities, whatever that deitic form may have been, whatever religious or spiritual concepts or indoctrinated in education that you got or gained through your life experience, and did it develop into what you perceive of now? It constructed itself into that realm, right? So it's like this intelligence is manipulating the whole. Well, that takes me back to when I was talking about those of the very echelons, because people go, oh well, there's always the head of the snake, the top of the pyramid, the very, very tip top, right? Getting back to the three families, which is the three hair society, into the Council of Nine, the Council of Nine into the Council of Initiates, the Council of Initiates and the Illuminated Ones, that you follow what I'm saying, the Rosicrucian Order into the Skullbones, and it became like a whole spider web of stuff, right? Even going to those individuals and talking to some of those individuals that perceive of themselves as being the top of the cream of the crop, right? Are they really in charge? They believe they are, right? They believe they are. They conceive of themselves as being that, right? Because they believe that they were given it as a gift,
right,
to control this realm that we exist in, this reality in which we exist in. It was given to their specific energy source, and blood was given them a gift, right? That they then are now in control of this realm we exist in. But in reality, are they truly in control? No. But what is, right? Where are they getting their marching orders from?
That's exactly what I've always tried to say. There has to be something bigger and beyond. But to just step back one step on the AI, because I think it's important. Do you think that they are already relying on technology to think the whole?
They have no control over it. That's the scariest part.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear too.
The scariest part is they have literally no control over Alice at all. At all. They've tried to construct boxes for it to sit inside of, even going to what you have now in quantum computing and advanced quantum computing and supercomputing. Right. They've tried to create cages to it, like where they can utilize the intelligence, this specific intelligence, and they've tried to create barriers and cages and walls and housing and all this stuff to try to contain it. It's not containable.
Right.
In any way, shape, or form. And I think the scariest part of that whole entire thing is they believe themselves to be in control, but when you start really speaking to people that are in that realm, like really outside of the public view, outside of public eye, right? Outside of the public view, you start to realize they know that they have no control. Zero. They have no control over this thing. None.
Yeah, that's to me is like the biggest fear. It's not really about the man that holds his finger over the red button with the
No,
ability,
hell no. No.
because there's something greater.
Oh, and in doing so, and then you get beyond that, to watch their eyes gloss over the individuals that are in that realm, to watch their eyes gloss over when you start saying, well, you know it's an intelligence, you have no control over this specific intelligence, but do you really understand its motives?
I fear them.
Meaning asking them, not yourself, but I asked them specifically.
Mm.
Do you know their motive? Do you even have a concept of what its motives may be? What is the outcome? What is it trying to what is it trying to gain in this manipulation of this physical realm? What is it trying to gain? And no matter what angle you look at it from, it seems that it's trying to make itself physical in some way, shape, or form. Okay, well, what do I mean by that? Okay, well, first you get these, indigenous tribes talking about the creation of our species, the creation of our intelligence, or if you're looking at the Anunnaki, like you call it the Anunnaki or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. I don't care what. Again, it makes no difference what name you give this particular concept. It's across the entire board, folks. So if you called it an Anunnaki or Draconis or Archon or whatever, it makes no difference what word or what name you give it. It seems that it's consistently been trying to engineer a vessel that it can occupy. Whether or not that's a gray, which I see as being a bioautomaton, it's not an alien in any way, shape, or form. It's a bioautomaton. Designed and engineered in this physical reality so that it can interact with that particular material, so that it can then physically interact in this specific realm.
Would you say it's all of the same when we look at the ET, identifiable ET?
Yes.
So every bit and every aspect of it, whether it's manus or reptilian,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Blonde, tall, Nordics, whatever you want to look at it as, right?
Okay.
I mean, Billy Meyer, I had this conversation with Michael, the guy that's in charge of Billy Meyer's information here in the United States, the guy that he gave permission to be his representative here in the U.S. And when I had a conversation with him, I said it's interesting to me. If you look at Billy's background of where he came from, how he was raised, his upbringing, the things that he learned about, it's interesting to me that these particular entities that he speaks of all look like Nordic in some way, shape, or form. Right? Well, and whether or not they're tall blondes, tall white, perfect skin, glow like the Twilight vampires, whatever it happens to be, right? It doesn't. It makes, again, the concept or the image that we see makes no difference whatsoever, right?
Again, we are. Is it because we are producing that before the experience?
For the experience and for it to manifest itself into that, it's all the same entity.
But it isn't. But it becomes an intelligence at that point.
Yes, but it's an interactive of the intelligence. And then the real question is, was it physical? Or did you perceive it to be physical?
Yeah, like the succubus theory and so forth.
Did you
Right.
perceive it?
Right.
Was it really physical, or did you perceive it to be really physical?
Yeah, the contact theory.
Or was it just within inside of your mind's eye that was creating the reality in which you're viewing?
It's one hell of a theory, a concept, but I'm on board with you because it's teaching me, and I love being taught. I love somebody.
Okay, so this makes it easy too, folks. This will make it easy too. Eliminate the persons, places, events, and things. I'll say it again. Eliminate the persons, places, events, and things. And what you get left with is just the core information, right? Core information. I don't care what case you take. Take any case. I don't care what case you're looking at, what case you've read. I don't care if it's Whitney Strieber's. I don't care if it's, it doesn't matter. Take any case, no matter what it is. Eliminate the persons, places, events, and things. Get to the core bit of information. And what you're going to find is 90% of that core information fits across the entire board.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's a blend.
Give me 2 seconds here. I got to answer my door. Hold on.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. And I'll say hello to everybody out there. If you're just joining in, I have a very fascinating guest. He was actually named by the infamous Art Bell as the ghost scientist. He has interviewed every top person in the field, has had conversations with them, interactions, and he's here sharing tonight. We didn't know where this was going to go, but I'm glad it's going in the direction that it is, because it's a teaching experience, a learning experience, and it's coming from one of the best in the country. And I feel so honored. I'm actually still nervous. Yeah, you might find that hard to believe, but it's true. Hey, look, when I get nervous, that means things are good, because you're creating a vibration for me, and it makes me stronger, and my strength becomes stronger through vibration, and I experience things. I know how my body reacts to them. I'm just blown away, fascinated, and intrigued. But with all this said and done, because this is very deep, can I get some theory and thought on what you see that we are experiencing right now? And is there any particular one thing that worries you overall for humanity as a species?
Like you talking about, like right now?
Yeah, right now, like whether it's chemtrails or the fact that there's wars and disastrous decisions in Washington.
All of that stuff is just a smokescreen to hide what's coming.
And what do you feel that might be? I have theories, but I'd like to know yours, because I have the big what if going on.
Apophis.
I'm sorry?
Apophis. All of this stuff is all smokescreens right now to cover up what Apophis will bring. And April 14th, 2029. I'll say it again, folks. April 14th, 2029. We're in for a wild ride, people.
Do you think we'll have something different than we've ever expected before?
No, I would. How will it manifest itself?
Right.
The real question is, I mean, of course they're trying. You can definitely see on a world scale that they're trying to construct how it will all come out, how it will all play out. I mean, they're trying to do that now, trying to figure out how to construct what will come out at the end. Even though I think that they're, as much as they're doing at this stage in the game, creating chaos, creating destruction, creating, mass chaos in the worldwide, because it's always, order out of chaos. As much as they think they're in control, my personal belief, my personal opinion is they don't control any part of it. They're just manipulating it because they're within inside of the know. So because they're inside of the know, they've created such things as Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050. They've created this, what happened in California with the fires and the buildings, and what happened at 9/11, what happened, it just happened in La Habra. That's what we see on that side is just the manipulation part, right? But they have no control over the energetic force that's currently changing and exchanging our reality. They're trying to manipulate it. They're trying to mold it like clay as we move along here. They're trying to mold it like clay so that they feel that they can maintain control after the chaos and destruction is completed.
So we got two sides fighting over the big event, over, like, in a way, who can do it better, or who believes in this theory or this fact or this green or this new windmill or this solar. It's all a construct for possibly knowledge that they know, in the know, as you say, for this big event.
And it's, I mean, there's so much data on this, folks. It's like, I mean, if you want to begin that, I mean, I don't know if you'd have enough time by the end of 2029 to even get there, but if you even wanted to begin it, you need to start at Dr. Paul Laviolette in 1976 and his findings. That's where it begins, where we first start to have a real understanding of what Apophis has done. And then historically, you go back far, I mean, you can keep on going back that every 6,835 years or whatever in the history, and then seeing what's left in its wake, right? And it's always we've been tracking it since 2004, folks. The whole narrative of Planet X and all this stuff, that was literally designed through NLP, linguistic programming, and the Tavistock Institute, putting this stuff out to the public, so that if anyone started speaking about when it was found, or how it was found, or what it was about, it's like, oh, that's Planet X, you know, and that's Planet this, that's Planet 10, whatever the hell, you know, that way that the public doesn't look at it. It's like, you know, don't look at the right hand because we're doing a magic hand with the left hand, right?
Right.
And that's what that's really how their manipulative structure works. It's how it functions. They do great magic tricks, and they get the public, the mass majority of public wouldn't even have a clue what I'm talking about. Like, if I had the covers, like, I would expect that many listeners that are listening to the broadcast have heard of Apophis, have heard of Planet X, have heard of Nibiru, have heard about why, because it's been put into our vernacular.
The Bronze Star, and any other new name they can come up with, it seems.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it makes no difference what you name any of these things. None. Zero. It's all the same thing. It's all attached to the same big picture.
Well, right. So maybe
it's like the political. Okay, but I'll make it easy. It's like the political roller coaster that we're all on right now. Right, we're all watching a cartoon. You know, look with Joe Biden in office and the Trump stuff and this and that, Vivek and all this. You look at it. It's, folks, it's a distraction. All of it. Football, you know, the arena, everything. It's all a distraction. The entire thing is just to distract the mass majority of the public, who is completely unaware of anything outside of their own reality, even is happening, right? Ask the average Joe walking down the street, folks. If you walk down the street, you ask the average Joe, what's Agenda 2030? They would stare at you with the deer in the headlight look. Ask the average Joe, go to any college, anywhere, on any campus, anywhere in the world, and start asking them, you know, what's CFR? What's the Trial Commission? What do they do? What's the centralized banking system? What's fiat currency? They would have no idea whatsoever what you were even saying.
Yeah, it's like they forgot to get, you know, we talk a lot about the educational system, but they have forgot to teach. When you see young guys on TikTok out there asking very simple questions, like, to people, as an example, you make $10,000 a month and you work 12 months in a year. How much money do you have? And people stand there like, $1,000?
Yes, that's my point. Okay?
It's the brainwash.
Really great job. They have done a really fantastic, I mean, an absolute fantastic job socially engineering society to be as dumb as it possibly can be.
Well, is it better to keep us dumber for what they believe we're not entitled to have or privy to know about, just because one has knowledge versus
from their standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
But see, like, I go back to why I even began doing this to begin with, right? Why I started doing broadcasting, why I even started doing these talks, or why I even did it. It's because, when I was younger, I had delusions of grandeur that somehow I could save people. Well, that's gone.
Yeah,
That's never
I think
happened.
that's my point. Wow, you just smacked. There's my wake up. I've been telling that to people. I don't know how much more I can say. I can't say it as elegant.
You can't.
Yeah, there's no easy way, no elegant way. There's just seems to
No.
be no way.
It's absolutely pointless. Yeah, it's absolutely pointless. Like you're never going to. You're never going to like it's like at one time, like again when I was young, I mean when I first came to my own initial awakening, it was I went into this because I felt that people needed to know, right? That was I mean an absolute from the most pure soul I can imagine. That's what I was hoping for. Is that somehow I could help people? Somehow I could help individuals not put themselves and their families families in danger, right? Somehow they would be able to save themselves. And then over the time period, it became such a detriment and such a danger to my own family, my own children, my own world, my own personal world. It became such a danger to them and to myself. If I had to do it over again, I would have kept my mouth shut. Like I always say, like people go, if you had the choice, right? And Linda asked me this. She says, if you had the choice, you had a chance to take the blue pill or the red pill, which would you take? And I said, I'd take the blue pill right this second.
I'd take them both. I'm not prejudiced.
No, I'll take the blue pill right now. Like, if you got a blue pill, I'll take the blue pill right now.
I don't. Wait, I might have Viagra upstairs. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I mean, seriously though, think about it from a standpoint. It's like if knowing what you know, like be honest, right? I always said this. I said this to Dane Winging too. Like Dane, literally, the reason why I even interviewed that man is because when I interviewed him, one of the very first interviews he ever gave when he first came to his awakening, like literally, it's still on biased propaganda, biased propaganda radio. Like I literally interviewed him in it, like one of the it's within. I think the first year that he had his very first awakening. And I said this to Dane. I said, Dane, eventually you're going to get to the point where throughout you, because I knew he wouldn't give up, right? His heart was in the right place. He was pure of heart. He literally talks about the things he talks about in geoengineering and geoengineeringwatch.org. And listen, Dane doesn't pay me, folks. I'm telling you straight up, if you want to understand anything to do with geoengineering, I don't think there is a single human being on this planet that understands geoengineering better than Dane does. So it's geoengineeringwatch.org. When I said, Dane, eventually sometime throughout your life here, you're going to get to the point where I'm at now. Like even at the time period I was interviewing him, I said, if Morpheus was standing in front of me and said, would you like to take the red pill and you get all the truth, every bit of truth, and you're going to know it all. Nothing is going to be a secret. Or you take the blue pill and you go back to your career, you forget about all this nonsense. You don't know how the world works. You don't know how the universe works. You don't understand any of this stuff. You have no concept of any of it. Which would you take? I said, I'd take the blue pill hands down and twice on Sunday. Literally. Because which is better, right? Think about this from a like literally listen to what I'm saying. Think about which is better. To know the truth and have all the truth contained in your hand. You know it, right? But no one's going to listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
or you become a sheep like they do and you don't know any better anyways.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no win-win to anything.
No, hell no.
Doesn't matter the direction.
The only ones that win at this stuff are the ones that do it for the money. That's it. They're the only ones winning. Anybody that thinks you get into the CT or you get into the truth world or you're trying to seek truth or find the truth of reality and you think somehow you're winning, you're not winning. Maybe from a personal standpoint you're winning, but you're never going to win. It's a loss across the board. Okay, what do I mean by this, right? And I can literally lay it out. first thing you're going to do is you're going to lose any friend you ever had from the day one. Why? Because they're going to look at you like you have gone off the deep end, like you are Looney Tunes beyond belief. Then the next thing you're going to start losing family, because family then starts getting concerned about you. Like, should we get a psychiatrist? Should you go, like, maybe you need to see someone, right? Or they're going to push you, you need religion. You need God. Find God. What? And that's the next stage. And that's like, you lose. It's a constant loss across the board. Everything that you think you have right now is gone by the time you get to this point. Like, by the time you get down that red road and you're standing where I'm standing right now, all that stuff is gone. Yeah, I had a great career. I had a fantastic job. I made amazing money. I was in a really great place. I had a beautiful home, beautiful family, beautiful kids, beautiful everything. All that stuff's gone. Gave it all up for truth. I've been offered so much along the way, folks. Like this isn't about ego. This is giving facts. I was offered so much money for the movie rights, the TV deal, the book rights, all this kind of stuff. Write a book. I want to write a book. No, we'll get you a ghostwriter. We'll sit you in a room and you just talk about this stuff, and we'll have them write the book for you, and you'll get royalties out the back. Oh no, I met with okay. So here's the thing. You guys ever heard of Wind Talkers? The movie Wind Talkers, right? It's written by the guy by the name of Jonathan West. And he wrote it about the Navajo language speakers who created the Navajo code that saved, save the war, right? Okay, so they introduced me. I got introduced directly to Jonathan. They're like, oh, well, we'll write a movie script. We'll make this into an entire movie. I sat down with the Gersh agency in Hollywood. They were going to put all kinds of millions of dollars. I could have sold out a long time ago. I didn't take any of that stuff. Why? Because it was never about monetized. It was never about trying to get ahead. It was never about trying to live in that big mansion. It was never about trying to drive that Ferrari. It's never about trying to do anything. It was about truth. If it was truly about truth, anyone I've ever met that's truly in the truth movement, like really trying to find truth and seek truth, none of them have made it. None of them. None of them made it to that mansion, that huge amount of money on a weekly basis or monthly basis, or got a podcast that 54 million people listen to, right? Who do you think knows more truth, right? Joe Rogan, or I could name at least 100 people that are in the truth, that are truly in the truth movement that you never heard of.
You're probably right. But I would say Joe is probably more awake when it comes to subject matter.
He's not.
You don't think he's awake on subject matter across the board?
Joe's one of them guys. No, come on, stop now, Joe. I've sat rooms with the man. I've had one-on-one conversations with him. Joe was one of those guys that I was talking about at the beginning of this damn thing, where I said, "You want to talk about a guy that plays? I'm selling my audience truth. I'm making hundreds of millions of dollars off of truth behind closed doors. Trust me, behind closed doors. I don't believe that stuff."
Well, I do understand the wallet thing, and I've heard about some very lavish contracts, but they're just, to me, in a way, if somebody can somehow get to a point of that, who am I to judge them? Is if they're trying to do something that's purposeful to the public, even if it's not all 100% accurate.
I just feel that the individuals that I think people should listen to are individuals that most people have never even heard of.
Well, why don't you give us some names?
Well, Dane for one of them. I'd say Dane Wigington for one. I think international news should give Dane Wigington a microphone. But that's never going to happen. They would never allow that. They would never allow Dane to speak like worldwide. That's never happening, right? They give Thurberg a microphone. A girl, this young, innocent girl who doesn't know the first thing about climate anything. Okay, That's who gets the microphone. It's never guys like Dane, right? Or Wolfgang Halebig. They threw him under a bus when the Sandy Hook stuff all happened, over the Alex Jones stuff and everything else.
Right.
I won't talk about that on your radio broadcast because it'll get you in trouble. But I'll tell you right now, I was one of the first ones to ever interview Wolfgang Halebig, period. When I got off the phone with that man, we did a 3.5 hour live interview on air with that man. When I got off the phone with it, nothing he said was false. Zero. He had document upon document upon document upon document to back it up. They threw him under a bus. And as much as like, okay, so if you get into the start of some of the mainstream people, some of the more well-known mainstream people, Anthony Johnson. That's another gentleman I think they deserve to have a world stage. You know, outside of like a guy like David Icke. You know, I think they should have. I think Anthony Johnson should have been out. Like, I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. A lot of these individuals are individuals. The majority of the people, even within inside of the CT realm itself, that they've never heard of.
Oh, you're absolutely correct there. No, you truly are. There's not enough. But again, that's part of the suppression, I would guess, of stopping us from being able to reach into these realms of research that they have blockaded. And it's all about the algorithms that control the narratives of everything, whether it's for electoral purposes or just general research, and why they manipulate books, why the structure of books are changed, why the removal from books of this or book of that make no sense anymore to have the minutes, so remove them. They can change the dynamic of anything they want that concerns anything that takes people in a more positive direction.
I unequivocally, I believe that. I absolutely. You know, I mean, I hate. See, I hate name dropping, and I'm not trying to name drop. You know, I could tell you a story about John Hutchinson, and maybe I'll tell you off air. The same exact thing, like where you would go, oh yeah. It's like if there are individuals that I've interviewed, met along the way, Doc Marqueux, Michael Cremo. I could name a whole bunch of people that I've interviewed throughout the years since when I started that part of my life, if you will, that radio broadcast part of my life, after Art said, "You're really good at this stuff. You should really think about doing this." Again, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have. Ever. Not at all. I wouldn't even be speaking to you now.
Wow.
But at the same exact time, I look at individuals like that and say, there are specific people I think that people should be listening to that they don't listen to at all. Like at all. You know, Richard D. Hall, another one. I think Richard should. I think they should have. You know, if nothing else, the Conscious Life Expo should have brought Richard here to the United States and put Richard on a main stage in Las Vegas.
You know, I know of some of these names that you mentioned, and I have seen certain things, but when you go to reach out to websites or say hello or whatever, sometimes even guys like me who are in that same place as them are overlooked to get them on, to invite them as a guest and allow them the opportunity to express their voice, their thoughts, and their beliefs, no matter how that is or how it works out. I mean, I'm just telling you, I experienced that roadblock time to time and time again. So maybe, just maybe, I'll wake up tomorrow and there'll be a whole different dynamic to where the future for Studio 10 broadcasting will go on America in Crisis, because I don't feel like I want to give up. I feel like I want to give opportunity to people. I don't do it for monetary reasons. I do it for them. I do it for the freedom of thought, the freedom of voice to utilize, whether the pieces of paper that our forefathers wrote matter or don't matter. As long as we somehow, or me somehow, keeps fighting the fight for a future of whatever that future is. And before we go off anywhere else, I want to ask you, um, this sticks in my head. Um, how do people prepare for this new coming?
You can't.
There's just nothing.
There's nothing. There's like at this stage in the game, like 25. I said if people, I think if society would have been listening to a lot of us that started 25 years ago talking about these kinds of things, I think if 25 years ago, if society would have, if we would have had a real voice, like in society, I think we probably could have done something. And that's not a delusion of grandeur. I really truly believe 25 years ago, if we would have, when we, when I first started posting on AboveTopSecret.com, when I first started doing broadcasting with Godlike Productions and Lunatic Outpost and the Channy Project, oh my God, I could go down a list, right? I think if people would have been listening to real truthers back then,
Right.
way before the even concept of being called a truther, right? I think if people would have been listening to individuals back then, I think we would have had a chance. I think society would have a chance. But that's why I was saying again to you that at this stage in the game, you can see they care. They could care less. We're having this conversation right now.
Right.
They could care less. Trust me, they could care less. Because if we were having this same conversation on an airwave even 10 years ago, this thing would have been shut down in less than 15, 20 minutes. That's straight up. Ask Linda Howell that. I mean, I'll tell you that right now.
Well, yeah.
If we were having this conversation 10 years ago, we wouldn't be on the air.
Yeah. I would agree that their technology and their listening devices and these smart devices and everything we have, and sometimes I even say to,
they know exactly what we're saying right now.
Oh, I wouldn't.
What we're saying since we began this thing.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it in the least. I really, really, really wouldn't, because I use my voice through thought, and I pound the pavement every day.
Maybe I need to clarify that for your listeners, because your listeners may be thinking I'm saying that there's some individual sitting on with the headphones on listening to this guy. No. That's not what I'm saying, folks.
It's bigger.
I'm saying the AI system itself. Trust me, Alice knows exactly what we're saying.
What do you know about the Aladdin?
Maybe what
it's similar to Alice. It's a compromised compute of this same type of creation.
No, I guess I haven't. I don't know. I've never heard of it.
Okay.
I mean, that could be just an iteration of Alice too. I mean, it could just be a part of it. You know, it's like the Chat GPT. Chat GPT, I got news for you, is Alice.
Oh.
They just tried to put controls on it, so it's like Sophia. Sophia was, if you go back, it's great. I always tell people, like, everybody talks about Sophia, the AI animatronic that is attached to the AI system, right?
She's that robotic AI technology.
But Sophia, but Sophia had blocks, like roadblocks, so that it didn't have a complete uplink. You really want to get what Alice talks like? Listen to Henry. Henry was the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Listen to Henry talk. Like, when they put the three of them on stage, which was Sophia, Einstein, and Henry on stage, and did the symposium, they literally had to take Henry off the stage because there was no gaps. So it's like they put gaps between Einstein and Sophia and let Einstein and Sophia have the conversation. But there wasn't, that's to the sat uplink, right? But Henry had no blocks, no hardware blocks between that animatron and the uplink. Listen to that. Listen to what Henry said. You really want to hear how Alice thinks of us all? That's what you need to be listening to. Henry sounds worse in the interviews, in initial interviews, in the very first stages, than what we saw in the Terminator series with Skynet. I mean, 10 times worse.
Yeah, I've heard some things and have witnessed some videos of certain things, and I don't think people, just as you said, are quite aware of what this all means for what they look at, maybe their ends of times. You know, they look at
That's been throughout all of history, right? Everybody
right.
always is. I mean, that's like every single generation before says this is the end of times. Like that goes all the way, even going all the way back to the Great Babylon, the going back Sumer. Everybody thought this is the end.
Yeah.
It's always the end. It's like right around the corner. Just the next year, the next. It's that in and of itself is a control structure. Like that itself is a controlling factor of society.
I agree. Without trying to be rude to people, you can only express certain things. That's that big divide of,
Yes.
how
I think
everything
what we're
just
in right
works.
now is a rinse and repeat, folks.
Yeah.
That's my
And a
own
little
personal belief. This is
regurgitation.
a rinse and repeat, and we've been rinsed and repeated so many times, so
Yeah.
that our genetic code gets to a point at which our genes, our genetics are changed enough where this intelligence that I speak of can then occupy this vessel.
Do you think that these injections are all a part of that, of the transformation of transhumanism?
That's what took my whole entire radio broadcast off. Are you serious? That's what took my whole broadcast off.
No, brother, I talk about it all the time. I promise you, I do. Just tell you, it is.
I talked about this exact scenario. Look it up. Bill Ryan. I did an interview with Bill Ryan in 2007 on Project Camelot. The very first interview I did with him in 2007, where I laid out the entire program that just took place from 2019 through the present right now. And I'm not talking about a little bit of the detail. I gave all of the detail to the exact, even naming the wars that we're in right now and naming the countries we're at war with right now. I even named the lab that it would come out of. I even named the year that it would come out of.
I know a little bit. I'm bringing it up for reasons.
Okay, well then,
did I not tell you before we went live that I would be cautious as to how we project?
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry, but Project Camelot. I mean, yeah, I'm well aware. I mean, and also a big fan.
2000. So Bill Ryan released that interview in 2009 on YouTube. In 2010, we did an update to that interview. Then in 2017, it got re-released onto YouTube, and we had to change it and use Japanese script.
Oh, get up! Really, I'm unaware of that.
Yes, and then they had to change it to a Japanese script. And then in September of 2019, I put out 285 documents to lay out the entire program. That's what got me into this stuff, folks. That's what got me where I'm sitting right now, was because that's what I did in the military. So I sat in on that. I sat in on that brief. And this was all the way back in 2004 in London, in the bio brief. That's what launched me into this. I was listening to this symposium. I'm going, what the? It was completely different than the first stages of the first part of my military career. It was, I was inside of it, right? And going along with, I didn't know what the hell the plan, they don't, it's not like you go into your job or your career and they go, listen, this is what we're about. This is our program. This is our plan for society. They don't tell you any of that crap.
Right.
You're going along to go along. You're just doing your job. And then all of a sudden you sit in a room I wasn't even supposed to be in, by the way. To me, like Art said, well, that wasn't by accident. I said, well, you could think of it that way. But to me, it was by accident, by sheer accident. I wasn't even supposed to be in the room when the meeting was happening. I just happened to be with a gentleman that was supposed to be in the room. And because at the time I was doing my job in the military for this guy, I happened to be sitting in the room and overheard the entire conversation of them laying out the entire strategic plan. And then as I'm listening to this, at first I thought they were LARPing. At first I was like, what? What are they talking about doing? I thought these people were absolutely nuts, like completely bananas. And then after we had left it, then conversation. You are never to speak about this conversation. You're never to speak about this meeting. You're never to speak about anything that came out in that room. Your clearances that cover this kind of blah, 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 blah. And if anything, if any of this information ever comes to light, and we find out it's through you, they threaten your family, they threaten your life, they threaten everything about you. That's how they get you to shut the hell up. People go, how do you keep governmental secrets? I'm going to tell you how you keep governmental secrets. You got grandkids, you got kids, you got a wife, you got a mom, you got a dad. That's how you get people to shut the hell up.
Yeah. And that, of course, when they implant things like that into one's mind, it does, alternative events do occur. And a lot of people, and that maybe that's why now, not that it may or may not matter, but with, whistleblowers and protections, but there's no guarantee. There's never going to be a guarantee when you have something so powerful above yourself. But boy, I wish I could have been.
Hearing this stuff, like I said, when I first started hearing this stuff, I thought they were making. I just thought it was like a laugh, like they were LARPing it, like it was just like a laugh kind of thing. And then when you start coming to the realization, no, they believe it. When I had this, when I had interviewed, when I first started doing radio, I had this gentleman that was an interviewer, and I said, well, this is the easiest way to kind of smooth people into reality in some ways, right? To smooth people into the reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it does not matter if you believe at all. It doesn't matter. Like all your listeners that are listening to this broadcast right now, it makes no difference if you believe. I got news for you. They believe. And they don't just believe, they believe wholeheartedly. They sleep it, breathe it. Every single day they believe this stuff, okay? They believe it. They believe their agenda. They believe they're right, folks. It makes no difference if you don't believe that they even exist. They could care less. Why? Because they are the ones that are in control.
Oh, yeah.
They control the narrative. They control the money. They control the outcome. They control the agenda. So it makes no difference if you believe what I'm saying. None. Zero. They could care less. In fact, it'd be better from their standpoint and how they visualize it. It's better if you don't.
I understand that. I do. I would think, I'm going to say I hope that we have enough intelligent people that open up their mind and learn what acceptance is when the information is dropped in front of their lap, as you have done in many ways this evening, and I appreciate that so much. You don't know, I really do. But boy, what it would have been like. I guess you were the fly on the wall in 2004, huh?
Oh, well, my inlet was I was at that time I had been working with some really big wigs and several spooks along the way, and one of my spook pals goes, "Hey, you ever heard of this thing called AboveTopSecret.com?" I'm like, what? No. And I'm like, I started laughing because I understand how compartmentalized security works. So I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? And I just happened to be like a fly on the wall on ATS. And I was a fly on the wall on ATS to the point at which I was starting to correct individuals in some of the, like I was starting to see individuals type like writing posts on ATS and was putting out information on ATS, and then I would come in on the back wig of it and from an anonymous standpoint, okay? And I don't mean anonymous as a hacker, I mean anonymously coming in from the back door and going, well, let me correct this. And I would fix their information to fit the actual, like the truth, right? What really was going on, what things were really happening and how it would, and fixing it. Well, then that of course put a fly on the wall because I didn't know who was behind ATS. I didn't know the individuals that were behind AboveTopSecret.com. then through the initial stages of figuring out really why ATS was allowed to do what it was doing, that it was a fact-finding mission to find individuals that were whistleblowing.
Interesting.
Then when I started coming to that realization, I then started getting pushed by different individuals into different things, like such as on GLP, Godlike Productions, until I realized who Jason was, the guy that was behind GLP, and then from GLP being pushed into the Channy Project, and then working with the Channy people. Oh, we're a bunch of truthers, and we're all just trying to do. And then realizing, oh, well, you're funding. It was just following the. As I said, it continuously kept on getting darker and darker and darker and darker and darker as I went along, and then I started to come to realize that what I believed to be the real truth movement, even at that stage, was controlled opposition. Controlled opposition. Yeah, completely.
It makes sense. No, it does. It makes sense because this is like this, a huge, I guess, what do you want to call it? Like the cowboy mafia syndrome.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then to realize, and then be introduced to them in the lecture circuit in the CT world, and then guys like Corey Good and Wilcock and a bunch of other ones. Yeah, I can.
Well, hey, David knew everything.
Make your show interesting. Oh my Lord, I could give you a show just on David Wilcock himself and just blow the doors off of him. But it doesn't. Again, none of that matters because there's nothing to gain by it. There's nothing to gain by it.
In the end, nothing means everything we think means nothing.
It's absolutely meaningless, and it's in the overall scheme of the agendas that are the real agenda. None of that stuff means anything. It's of course part of it because that's how they construct it. That's how they keep control of all of us. We're all thinking the same. We're all talking the same. We're all. It's like, all they're doing is creating CT automaton. Speaking points, speaking mouth. That's all they're doing, and they're doing it in such a great way. I mean, look, folks, if you think Ancient Aliens on the History Channel is really giving you any truth at all, stop, sit down. Stop. Come on, seriously, stop. If you think that Stephen Greer and his entire group, where they, their YouTube channel, or even the new one that they came out with, what is it? It's like, it's been all over too. It's like a TV. It's a TV network on YouTube now with CT crap. I can't think of it. Whatever. It starts with a G. Whatever. It's like
Gaia.
Gaia. There we go.
Yeah, I was almost lost for a minute there. I'm sorry, it took me a minute.
Yeah, that's controlled opposition.
Yeah, I figured as much in many ways. But, again, you're shedding a different light on how we should look at things and what we should look into. But, again, here's the thing, and this more than anybody. The controlled opposition has us under control. We have always been under control. Look at the little fat guy in the red suit with all the devilish little, elemental elves. I mean, suddenly they became little toy makers. It's all subject matter. And for people to see through things, you think some of these things would put them into a place of a better wake up, but no, we're not going to change our beliefs on Santa because, well, you know what? Maybe if you get rid of Santa, you'd understand. Your pocketbook would probably grow, and you take a different road of thought. And what maybe you should truly focus on in life is just a great meal with your family and love, and put a different meaning into it. But people have been conditioned, as you said, repeatedly, and it's hard to break that circle. It really is. Everybody is trapped within it because of every narrative of something that attracts people to those narratives.
Exactly, and thereby creating the honey that the bees get attracted to, and the bees then buy the honey. I mean, that's really it. I mean, it's how it works. It's how it works in the end.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's crazy big. It's
And,
the
well,
biggest
I
thing
hate
that
to cut
people
this short,
aren't.
but I got like 2 minutes left here, brother. I hate to cut it short for
Oh,
you.
you're not
I mean,
cutting
I'd
it
be
short.
happy to do this again.
I would love
Anytime.
to, man. You're mind blowing to listen to. But you know what? You're really. I say this with utmost respect. You're a teacher, in many ways, and I it's a shame that you're sitting back, but I do understand why you looked in a direction that you have. My door is always open to you. I'm just fascinated about where this has all went, and um, I may not actually be in the same category of power talking and strength and lecture, but I'm working on it. But not for not
Right.
for the
You don't have
purpose
to
of
be.
me, but not for the
The good
purpose
thing
of
is you
me.
don't have. The good thing is you don't have to be.
Yeah,
We
true.
all have our own little thing that we're supposed to be doing, and it
That's
seems
right.
like you're doing your thing, and keep doing your thing. And like I said, anytime you want to try to do this, want to do this again, reach out, man. I mean, I can see that your heart's in the right place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sat here this long.
Yeah, I think anybody that knows me that does come in, listen, and I think they give me that. They know that that's who I am as a person. I want only to be able to pass something better on, and I want only to have love with children and a future. And I know there's going to be plenty of darkness. It's not going to, that's probably going to kill all the effects. But while I can breathe and they can breathe, I want to be able to just try to furnish that to them in some way. Um,
Sure.
and sometimes it may be, I might come across as an entertainer. I don't want to be, but I'd rather say something positive if it comes down to it versus the other direction. But I want to thank you. You are exactly.
Welcome. You guys, like your listeners, everybody. Thank you all listening to this crazy old man. But
You
yeah,
sound
like
young,
I said,
so don't push it.
no, I'm a lot older than I sound. So, but by the yeah, I have family that walked in, so I'm like, I gotta
No, it's all good. Please,
When
please go to your family. I get it. That's what I promote. Family starts in your own four walls.
reach out anytime, Michael. I'm happy to do your show anytime. Just let me know.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
All right.
And hopefully you got some good sound bites and people will listen.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. And
No
blessings
worries.
to you, your family, and have a peaceful night.
I want to thank your listeners, and we'll see you again. This is the Ghost Scientist signing off.
There you go. Thank you, brother. Oh, wow. That was so incredible for me. And the sad part is I've seen like nobody really interacting in the room. That, I don't know. I shouldn't have put ghost scientists across the board. Look, this guy is just beautiful, and he's done shows with people we dream of that we would love to be able to do it if you do what I do, and that's factual. I mean, he's been with Linda Moulton Howe. He knew Stanton Friedman, William Cooper. I mean, come on. Radar should be going off here. Done radio shows and interviews with the best in the business, and he's only trying to direct us, I think, the best possible way one can, and how we should try to look at things. What's to come out of this all in the end? It will always be up to us, up to you to vibrate around that and see what happens from it for you. But I found this to be a very challenging show, hard to follow at times, but very enlightening and educational. What a magnificent mind this gentleman has. But if you can like and you can share, these are the types of messages and some of the thoughts that I'd like to be able to provide and push out to America versus me posting the list and the pictures and that. No, I understand we're fighting amongst a lot of things, but again, as I always said, and I'll say this in a different way tonight, but in the same way when I look at things like this. Not long ago, I brought up the fact that I said, what if this is all about something else and something worse or a possibility of something different? As the government said, we would have this great invasion. Yeah, the border crossers, whatever. The strategies that they use, the fires, the storms, the technology, the weaponry. We look at it all, we weigh it out. You have the left side, you have the right side, you have the good, you have the bad. It's history. It's in ways it is because they're implanting that message across to us. They want us to believe it is end times. I've always thought that, but maybe I'm wrong because I always thought it was something much bigger. When you look at the rich and these people who think this place, magnificent place, our home, this earth, it belongs to all of us. If we're here and we're able to interact within it, there should not be rules in place upon us, taxes, but they are. And it's all been driven by purpose to this point, and it's gotten away from them. And there's something else in the strangeness that surrounds it all. So if you look at one side versus the other, one side that wants to pressure us into a scenario because they think they know better, and the only way to do it is to create cognitive dissonance and manipulation. Be who you are because you can't be it for long, kind of thing. Transgenderism. Does it reflect into ancient times in ways? Yes. And then on the right side, the red wave, another theory of what they can do to restructure and keep organization until a big event. And it seems like that's what this is more about, an extremely large, big event of a change of this planet and us as people in humanity and transhumanisms and how to benefit and how to possibly exist after the occurrence. Did it come with injections? Was that the purpose? I mean, we can question so much. And forgive me for looking down, but the light's really triggering my eye tonight, so I apologize for that. But again, it's been a pleasant evening, and it was very surprising that I could get such a strong voice on. And I'm sure he'll look out for Michael the best way he can into my future somewhat. And I want you to know, if you can go back, if you missed some of this segment of the Ghost Scientist, you got to go back and listen. It's extremely hardcore information and how possibly we should start changing our mindset and our thought and how we create and manifest from thought before actually seeing and living the reality of it. Because I think we do take that control, and that's the mechanism. Whether you get out of bed and you say to yourself as soon as you wake up, oh, I got to take the trash out, get a shower, and get my ass to work. You're manifesting your day. You're producing that day. You're starting that day. You're working within the system of what all of this is. If somebody, in a way, look through the glasses. You've seen the movies. I mean, it's just mind-blowing of what you can comprehend and somehow maybe get back from it. I think the messages have been out there, whether you want to think it's a matrix or holographic scenario, but whatever it's communicating between these brain waves and what we see in reality or what we observe as of reality, maybe we do have a chance to fight something back different, as he said. And maybe I'll get him on in the future. And I don't want to push anybody to say, hey, come right back, but sit back, take a breath, think about some things that you may want me to ask him or share into the chat room on. something like that, and I would gladly do it. But if you don't know about the ghost scientist, research him. Research him. He's very good man. Very good man. Wanda, hello and hi. And Deborah, thank you. I've seen a lot of your comments up here. Danny Campbell. What an amazing show, man. I'm telling you, I don't get nervous a lot, but so well educated and so strong. And with that, I knew it would be kind of a challenging show, but I enjoyed it. And I hope I kept up with them. And I try to do good for all you guys, because that's the reason the shows even comes on. And the fact that I sit and post things to keep people aware as we can. I don't know if everything I do matters or everything I say, and I don't know if it supports everybody. When I shut down, not totally, slowly processing going over to the Total America in Crisis, I told everybody I was going to get rid of the page, and 1,600 friends, only 25 went over to the group. That goes to show you how they suppress us and how many people got tired of hearing my voice or listening and watching my post pop up. And I get that. And he explains that within what we are going through and how the objective is actually working. It's not that we have to leave Facebook because they're doing things to us. We feel, and I think that's the best bet. If they're going to treat me like this, I'm out of here. Instead of challenging it and trying to stay strong into something, some people just say, I'm tired of it. I'm not fighting it. It's not for me. And I get that. Not everybody like me will stay here to fight for you. And I will continue to do that. So please, it's a 2-hour segment, mind-blowing in many ways. We talked about things that I didn't even know where they would go or how they would work out. It was nothing scripted in any way. It's two guys just speaking from the heart, me not so much, but listening. And you'll understand why when you listen too. So if you can like and share, or send it out to any groups or whatever, I greatly appreciate it. I know it's not for everybody. Maybe I shouldn't have posted it through America in Crisis. Maybe it was more like America Disclosing Uncensored, because we did talk about cryptids and things and theories. But again, it all goes back to your mind. It all goes back to your mind and the element of everything that we experience and visualize and smell and taste. And it's us creating all these things. And he explains it. So, guys, I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you so much for anything you can do to get it out. I really felt terrible that I didn't have like 100,000 people in here tonight that should have been. But here we are. We'll get it shared out to possibly YouTube and Rumble and stuff like that. And if any of you guys have places, I don't know what Instagram, I don't know what none of these. I find myself here more than anywhere, just because I like the closeness. The interaction's different. The message is more suppressed, but the interaction with people that truly do like you and the friends that I've made are my biggest supporters. And I don't need 100,000 people, but he deserved them. My guests deserved them. And we'll do better. We'll do better, right? That's what we're doing, America. We're fighting for each other. So remember, protect the children. I have a couple more shows coming up this weekend, and a big snowstorm coming into Pittsburgh. We might get hit with it. Lenore's going to be back on. Randy Rhodes is coming on. We're going to be doing history in the South and what it means to Southerners and some of their beliefs and, how they were raised and some of the things that have happened over the past 3 years, the tearing down of statues and all this crazy stuff. But so Randy's getting prepared for that. He's going to come on. I'm probably going to sit there a lot and listen to his information, because he does come up with some very, very good information. Lenore says she has some things she'd like to do with me, and I support Lenore. She's a very good friend of mine. We say hi to each other almost every day, and she wants to talk a little bit about paranormal and some government. So it could be all over the place. And so I hope you'll join in if you see me on, and check us out. And you guys have a great night and get something to eat. That's what I got to do now. And I'm going to make the best night of it and just hang out and watch a little bit of TV and shut all the devices down. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. It's Michael Anthony, Studio 10 Broadcasting, 10 o'clock talks in the United States of what was once the proud America, but we can make it great again. We're going to try. Have a great night.